Hey guys, welcome back to the BirthLink podcast. Right now I'm actually live while I'm doing this, so I'm trying not to be nervous, but live is weird. Anyways, today I'm going to get into the birth plan. I'm going to do the birth plan workshop essentially. I have had quite the week. It's been like 2 weeks really, and of me just like back to back stuff. Like from my mom, I had to spend 10 hours in the hospital with my mom. She's having some really I don't want to get too into it, but she's having some mental health struggles and I fear for her. But I had 10 hours in the ER with her and she's highly anxious. So I'm still trying to recover from that. And that was like two weeks ago at this point. But since then, it's just been back to back things. And then my baby's birthday was this weekend, so we had a big party, like 3 days of stuff that we had to do. Family came in and we went to Disneyland on Monday, which was really cool. Super crowded. I've never been to Disneyland during the holidays. I mean, it has its pros. It was, you got to see the snow, and I'm in California, so it's Disneyland. The snow was cool. She loves this. It's a Small World, and it was like the whole holiday thing, so it was really cool. Crowded though, crowded. But then my husband said that's preparing me for India because I'm going to India on December 22nd, which I'm really excited about. If any of you guys have tips for India, let me know. We're going to go to Mumbai and then we're going to travel around. I'm hoping Goa too because he's talked so much about Goa, but I'm kind of letting him handle the whole trip. So I'm excited about that one. We're going for 3 weeks. We're finishing up in Maldives, which is going to be awesome. And yeah, so I'm trying to get some episodes in. I'm trying to get them recorded. I'm coming out with, the hospital crash course that you can just buy right off the bat. I'm going to give you a discount. It's going to be Black Friday. So I'm preparing that for you guys. And I'm sure it's going to still be up when this episode comes out. So grab it. myfriendsandnurse.com. Go. I'm sure I'll have a promo coming out. But yes, let's get into our episode today. It's all about the birth plan. So kind of steering away from the first 15, which is, the first 15 minutes after birth, a lot of stuff happens and I want you to be prepared. So that's why I get into those things. But I did for this episode want to steer away and get into the birth plan because so many of those things that we're discussing need to be in a birth plan because you want to be able to discuss them, right? So I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the BirthLink podcast, presented by My Friend's a Nurse. I am your host, Coletta Colliker, a high-risk labor and delivery nurse right here in sunny California. I'm also an OB certified specialist, birth educator, lactation expert, and mother of 2 beautiful daughters. I am passionate about guiding you through the miraculous journey of pregnancy and childbirth, using evidence and history and asking the reason why. I have some incredible medical friends and colleagues, and we're all here to help you navigate this often overwhelming birthing hospital system in the United States. My goal is to gain trust in birth, improve this system, and provide some valuable insights. Let's make this journey a little less daunting and a lot more joyful. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the BirthLink podcast. I'm so excited you're here today because I'm going to jump into a birth plan. I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. I know creating a birth plan can feel a bit overwhelming, especially if you're going to do one that's actually effective. And I have a whole workshop on it that I was doing weekly over the summer. And then I moved to once a month over the fall. And then I switched over to the hospital childbirth crash course, which you can get on my website, myfriendsandnurse.com. So jump on there and grab it. It's going to be a special deal, evergreen. So just buy it and watch it right away. You don't even have to wait for it live. It's ready to go. About 3.5 hours crash course. Okay, that's my pitch for that. But the workshop I did was about an hour long, discussing how to create a birth plan that is effective, right? That's going to work for you. If you're going to make a list of your preferences, of the things that you would love to have during your birth, and then none of it works out, it's like, what's the point? And then, at the end of the day, everyone's going to kind of be like, what's the point of it? It's too much work. And, I just want an epidural and I just want my baby safe at the end of the day. And if you're thinking about that, like that standard of baby safe and I'm safe, like that's the bottom line, You can do more than that, right? What do I want for you during your birth? I want you not to be ignored. I want you not to be coerced. And I definitely want you not to be disrespected. And unfortunately, nowadays, I see all of this happening. All the nurses do. I went to the A1 conference and they had a whole seminar on it. Like, and they listed it, commonly reported mistreatments. Okay, I have it listed in my notes. Loss of autonomy of your body. Like, you don't have a say of what's happening to your body. It's almost like you are a separate entity, right? You're not even human. It's crazy. But loss of autonomy, lack of informed consent. If you are online, if you are on social media, if you follow me, the nurses were stressing, understand informed consent. Understand it, get it. You have to give it. It means that you're informed. What does informed consent mean? Because we're not giving it to you at the hospital. And nurses, doctors, are you providing correct information for them to give you consent? And if they are declining after that information, are you respecting them? Are you pushing? Are you coming back in 15 minutes or in an hour and pushing it more? Why? Why are we not respecting how they decline? And parents, are you declining respectfully and appropriately so that there's no miscommunication? That you're like, okay, I said no, please leave me alone. And if you say yes, is it out of fear? Is it because you are coerced? Are you saying yes because you are truly informed, or you're just like, let's just go with it, whatever? As a nurse, I'm standing there most of the time being like, oh my God, they don't know why this doctor is really recommending it. And, I have to jump in with questions for them sometimes. Like, why are we recommending this? Is the baby okay right now? Yeah, the baby's doing well. Okay. Is mom doing well right now? Yes, mom's doing well right now. But, we're worried about this. Okay, well, can we have another hour? And I'm going to be asking all these questions. But if I'm not your nurse, if I'm not there at the bedside, many nurses are not. Many nurses are not going to question the doctors whatsoever. And I'm not questioning their recommendations or judgment. I'm just trying to make sure that they are informing them correctly. What are the risks of a C-section if that's what they are recommending, right? Because they'll always recommend a C-section. They'll be, like, okay, it's been 2 hours. You haven't made any progress. In the last 8 hours, you're still 6 centimeters, no change. So I think the best thing to do before something happens is a C-section. Like, enough is enough. And I see the mom like in tears, so sad, like that this is not what she wanted. She feels like she failed, but she's exhausted and she trusts the doctor that this is the best recommendation for her. And it quite possibly is. I'm not here to say it's not. But is that proper informed consent that she's giving when she says yes to the C-section? No. She needs to ask, what are the risks of the C-section? Right? And unfortunately, she has to ask sometimes because they're not going to just give it over. I had a patient, I had to say that. I'm like, okay, and now we're going to tell her the risk of a C-section. Like, is this really what I have to do? Like, remind you to give her the risk of a C-section? What alternatives do we have? Like, hello, let's do this. Unfortunately, it's not. So it is up to you to get proper informed consent if you're going to give it. Use of force is another one, right? They will force you sometimes to do things physically sometimes. You guys don't, if you've never given birth or you just had one great one, I'm so happy for you. But so many times in so many situations as nurses and physicians, we see this, midwives. And you can see the ones on social media like shouting from the rooftops, right? This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I just saw it so much. And I don't know if it's because we're women or what the case is. But when you are also, a person of color or don't speak the same language or anything like that, it's even worse. Even it is infuriating to me. And I was having panic attacks walking into work. seriously, I would look down at my watch and be like, why is my heart like at 120 right now? It's and I feel it pumping out of my chest and I feel nauseous, and I knew it was because work was going to be tough, and it wasn't because of the birth. It was because of how I was witnessing parents being treated. And it's not just the moms, it's the partners, it's the family, it's everyone there, but mostly the moms, and as a birthing parent, I want to be inclusive. But yeah, it's awful. So use of force, physical, verbal abuse, like yeah, I've seen like shut up, da da da. They're like talking bad to you, like if I was listening to Trish the other day, and she literally was like a doctor. She had one. Trish is a labor nurse mama, by the way. She's my coach, and she was telling us a story that she was talking to some of her moms, and one of them actually said that the doctor told the mom, if I had a gun and I could put it to your head to make you do what I'm asking you to do, I would. Like, what? To me, that's verbal abuse. I don't know about you, but very toxic environment. Not what I want to give birth to my baby in. What is he talking about? Like, is the baby dying right now? Am I dying? Tell me. Like, that's what you need to ask if they go that far. It's incredible, the stories that we hear, honestly. And I don't want to, scare you or do anything, but be aware. That's all. And stand up for yourself and fire that doctor immediately, and get a second opinion and understand why the recommendation is, but if you're declining, and there's not much we can do, and that's probably why I said that, but I don't know the scenario, but it doesn't matter. We shouldn't use that language with you. Coercion, of course, if they're going to be like, well, if you don't do this, your baby could die. You don't want your baby to die. They'll say that. You know why they say it? Because it works. It works. And, they feel like when they've seen something bad happen, or they know the risks, or they just really have some other ulterior motive. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it works. So they use it, and it really shouldn't happen ever. They need to speak to you like you're an intelligent person that understands. And if you're saying no and they don't understand, then they need to work on their education possibly. And then they need to respect you when you say no. And then there was discrimination, was another commonly reported mistreatment. And I've seen that so much. When I was up in Seattle, I was at Swedish First Hill, and I don't care, I'll say it. It was pretty bad. I mean, there were great nurses, great doctors there. They did their jobs right, but wow. The language that they spoke at the nurses station, the language they spoke with me, and the type of discrimination they had, especially if like a mom didn't have prenatal care, or she was homeless, or a drug user, or whatever it is, didn't speak the language. Forget about racism. It was awful. Yeah, and trust me, it's not just there. It's everywhere. It's honestly everywhere. People are people, and I feel like labor and delivery, we work at a place of fear so much, and panic almost. So when we don't see something, and then when moms are not seeing it, or the parents aren't seeing it, it's like we get pretty abrasive, or we're just stressed out, like especially how busy that hospital was. I could see they're stressed out, and unfortunately they took it out on patients, and it was so sad, because this was supposed to be a wonderful day, right? Honestly, the busier the hospital, the crazier things I see. The more traumas, the more emergencies, the more of all this mistreatment I see. And I've traveled around to quite a few hospitals. So if you're going to a big hospital, you definitely need a birth plan, and you definitely need a team around you to advocate for you so that it doesn't happen. And unfortunately, when I saw the most mistreatment, it was when nobody was around them, or the people around them were silent because they didn't understand, or they were also scared. So yeah, it's truly, truly, like, I wish they would all just take a birth class, or get a birth coach, or a doula. I mean, sometimes not everyone can afford a doula, and I get it. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Like, I can kind of be your doula without being there, I can help you. I can coach you to be your own doula, to build a team around you so you don't have to spend the money on an actual doula. If you have the ability, if you're check with your insurance to have a doula there, have one, right? But the most important thing is that whoever your team is around you, your doula, your partner, your mom, your sisters, your friend, whoever is going to be at your birth with you, like, please don't come alone. And if you do, that means you definitely need a birth plan that works, right? Then you need to make sure you have a birth plan that they all understand, because so many times you're just not able to speak up for yourself or advocate for yourself, no matter how much you've practiced, no matter how much time you put into it. So, I'm all about prenatal yoga and learning how to push and understanding birth. All of that is so good. Your breath work, your mindset, all wonderful. But if you are not understanding the basics of what we do and your options, then, all of it's going to go, all the things that you learn is going to go right out the door the second you get to the hospital. I promise you, I've seen it all the time, right? And this even goes if you are planning on a home birth, because there's always that chance that you could end up in the hospital. And, transfers are fine. We're going to take care of you, but come with a plan. Come with if transferred to the hospital, this is what I want. This is my plan, right? If anything, it's just to be used as a communication tool, right? So this goes into what a birth plan is, right? So it is a tool, and it's meant to be used to communicate. So you have this as you're building your birth plan, and it's not going to be overnight. It's not just one night of checking the boxes, but it's over time. It's over a month or two. I would start right at your first, like as soon as you find out you're pregnant, right? So here's my first tip for you, as it being a tool, is to get a notebook, a pregnancy birth notebook, however you want to call it, a journal, whatever, and start writing questions. And if you want questions for your doctor, for your birth, something good so that you can start those communications and discussion, then just email me, Colette and my friends Colette and my friends a nurse.com, and ask for the OB questions, and I'll send it right to you. Or find me on Instagram. But I have a list of like 21, or maybe it's 33 now, right? So you just read through them and pick one or two to start if you want to. But every time you go to your doctor's appointment, you should have a question or two or three for them. And then you write the answers, you write the question, you write the answers in the book. If you have follow-up questions, like, get to know your doctor. Start building that, like, role as a leader, right? This is your business almost. This is your body. This is your baby. So get that notebook, start jotting notes, start writing down who you want in your birth room with you, what their role is going to be, like who is going to be the baby advocate, right? Who's going to learn fetal monitoring so that they can keep an eye out? Who is going to support you with counter pressure, or, cold cloths, or, make sure that you're getting your drinks and waters? Who is going to be responsible for speaking to the doctors and the nurses when you can't? Right? It could be multiple people. So start building your team, but write it in a notebook. Start discussing with your partner and everyone on that team the questions that you're asking your doctor, and the questions that you need to ask when you're going through the list of preferences, right? What's available to you during your birth, because they should all be involved. And you really need to discuss with them, and this includes your doctor and your doula and whoever's going to be in that room with you. It really needs to include the why. So when you do decide on something, let's say you don't want the baby medications, okay? So vitamin K and erythromycin, you don't want it. So that should be on your birth plan, because otherwise it's pretty routine. We give it. So if you're going to get it, then that's fine. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the birth plan. But let's say you don't want it. Why? Why don't you want it? Like, your partner should understand that. Because if they don't, and if you don't, and if you're just like going with the herd, and then when they start questioning you, which they will, And this goes for fetal monitoring or a episiotomy or epidural, pain med, whatever it is on the long list. And I have like 100 something things that you could put on a birth plan. If you want it, again, just write me. I'll send it to you. But you're going to go through these things, and it's going to be so easy for them to sway you and change your mind, especially if you're not the one first, especially if you don't understand your why. But if you're not the one talking, if you're not the one answering because you're in the middle of it, and then your partner is getting questioned and they don't understand even what it is, much less your why or why it's on your birth plan. And this goes for your partner, your doula, your doctor, and your nurses, right? And we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, I mean, they have to understand the why for them to appreciate and advocate for you. Because if they don't, it's going to be too easy for them to say, babe, this is, the doctor's recommending this, and then it's not going to be proper informed consent. Oh, the doctor, really, you should just get it. You should just do this. It's for your best interest, blah, blah. And, you've done the research and you chose this for a reason, but you're in the throw of it, or you didn't do any research and you don't understand your why. And you're going to be like, fine. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Because it's so much of birth, it's like sometimes just, I got to get through this, or like, don't bother me. I'm in the zone, whatever, just do it. Or you're going to get aggravated. Like, no, I said, no, just don't ask me again, and that's strong. That's powerful. But it's unfortunate that they're not doing that for you, that you have to get to that place to begin with. So discuss those things with everyone on your team. Discuss it with your doctor early on. Like, what are their thoughts about a vacuum or forceps delivery? What are their thoughts on active management of the third stage of labor? Do you need to have that Pitocin after, or can you wait and manage it as needed? Completely up to you. But your doctor needs to be involved and have an understanding of what you want. Will they probably, like, behind your back, roll their eyes and be like, oh, here we go? Yeah, maybe. But those are the doctors and those are the clients that I see those doctors running to their room so they don't miss it. They are so protective over those patients because they have a level of respect for them that I don't see they have for other parents. I'm just telling you this right now, okay? Like, they'll be like, oh, she's, maybe they'll call you high maintenance. Maybe they'll call you whatever. Who cares? But in their soul, in their gut, they respect you because I see them running. I see them like, don't mess with her. I have to deliver her. She doesn't want this. And they kind of build a rapport with you because they know you. You've asked us questions. You let them know who you are. Do you have a fear of needles? Discuss it with them and discuss it often, right? Do you have anxiety? Do you have concerns over breastfeeding, over medications? Whatever it is, discuss it and discuss it often. Discuss it with everybody. You have to. And if you do that, then when the time comes, you won't have to discuss it during your labor when you really don't want to. Okay? So get that journal, start with the questions, and use it as that. I consider that journal, that notebook, the beginnings of your birth plan. It's a little baby birth plan, okay? Write those questions, write the appointment, dates, and time. You'll get follow-up questions. I hope your doctor, and then look, when your doctor is talking to you, are they facing you? Are they looking interested? Are they asking follow-up questions? Like, read between the lines, because this is what you're going to get. This is your doctor, right? Are they making you feel heard and respected? I hope so, because if you're not, just with those questions in the beginning, you're absolutely not when it's time to deliver. And the sooner you can do this and find out, the easier it's going to be to get a new doctor, a new provider, a new midwife, whoever it is. And just because you have a midwife, you still got to do this too. Midwives are not like 100% all on board, and they have the stereotype because they were nurses, and I love that, but the system, the hospital changes you. So if they deliver a lot in the hospital or they see a lot of clients, then, they may not be. So don't assume. And it doesn't matter. Doula, your partner, everyone needs to be on board and understand you, who you are as a person, your values, and you do too. So it's going to take some work on your part, even in the beginning. And that's why the notes and journaling is so important, to kind of figure out who you are as a person. Like, what really are your values? If you're shrugging them off, if you're too busy, if you're not taking the time to figure it out, then when the time comes where it really matters, then it can turn into a traumatic event so quickly. And, I hope it doesn't, but it really, really could. And the ones that are better off are the ones that put in this time. And then one last thing about it being a tool, I mentioned nurses, is using this because, the nurses you're not going to meet during your prenatal time. You meet us at the time of delivery. We walk in, we're like, hey, my name's Colette. I'm going to be your nurse. It's so nice to meet you. I'm one of the few nurses that be like, do you have a birth plan? Most of the time they say no. So then I kind of go through things that I need to know right then and there about their preferences. Most of the time they don't understand or don't know. And it's unfortunate because I see them just, well, I already told you, but okay, so your nurses, you have a birth plan or your journal, whatever it is, have it by your bed. And you tell them, Colette, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so happy that you're going to be a part of my birth. And this could be your partner too. Okay. So if you're a partner and you're listening to this, this can be you. If your wife or your girlfriend or your partner, whoever it is in the throes of it, then this needs to be you. It's so nice to meet you. I just wanted to go through our birth plan real quick and make sure that you understand our preferences and what's happening here, right? And I see this when I walk in a room and I see the whole environment set. So I see the candles and I smell the essential oils and the music is playing. I already know. I'm like, oh, they're about to discuss their birth plan with me. And 9 times out of 10, they do. They bring it up. Hey, we really want to avoid epidural. She has a TENS unit we're using. And, we want to avoid Pitocin. They're feeding me this information. I'm like, yes, it changes the whole vibe. It changes the whole mood. I am now there to service them. I am there to help them. And that's how it should be, right? They're not there. I'm not any type of authority figure, and neither is your doctor. Okay. You are the authority. So you need to set that tone, and you don't need all that fancy stuff around you. I highly recommend it. Set your environment for your mindset, right? That's a different episode. But it's about becoming a leader. And a leader is going to be proactive when it comes to introducing the nurse to their preferences. And having that notebook and that birth plan right there at your bedside to discuss those things and to remind you to do it is key. And that's how you use it as a tool. I also say you can print out a birth plan, maybe without your name, so it's private, and put it on your door so that anyone that's going to enter your birth space can see right away what your preferences are. Because sometimes there are strangers that are, part of your team that is going to come right for delivery, or they're entering in their new residents or doctors. And if they see your birth plan right there and you have another note that says, keep the door closed, please keep quiet. That birth plan, I always suggest to be very precise when it comes to, or details to the room. And so what do you want them to know as they enter the room, right? Maybe no students. Some parents don't want male providers, so no male providers. Just a reminder, right? Keep the lights low. How many doctors walk in and they just turn the lights on? It's it's crazy. It's their room. They're the ones giving birth. I don't understand them at all. And, if you're a doctor listening or midwife, I hope that's not you. So stop it. But it's your space. You're birthing in it. So you have to set the tone, and we're all strangers, right? Yes, you're in a hospital. This is not your home, right? We do have rules that you need to follow to be able to birth there. And the hospital crash course does review those so that you have an understanding. But at the end of the day, that room and that birth is yours. Your body and your baby is yours. and you can be the leader. You can have control over it, but you got to set the tone. So use that birth plan as a tool, okay? Put it on your door. Make sure you have it in your notebook or print it out, maybe a lovely template. You can hand it to your nurse, a copy to keep in your your chart. That's great because then we can take it and review it ourselves. But there's nothing beats you having a discussion so that we understand your why. We get it. We're like, oh, she really means it. Like, it's not just a generic birth plan she printed out. Like, she understands what she wants. And I'm going to be way more assertive when it comes to making sure that you can get those things. All right. So if you're saying no Pitocin, like no Pitocin, and you can even be open to Pitocin, but if you're like no Pitocin because I really want this to be as natural as possible, I want to do this spontaneously, I really want to avoid it, what are the alternatives first? So you're going to talk to me about it. So we're going to be way more cautious when we have that conversation with you. Whereas if you never say anything, even if you have a birth plan, but you put it in the back of the chart and you never mention it to us, we're probably going to be like, when it's time that we want to give you Pitocin, if we think things are slowing down and the doctor's like, okay, give her Pitocin. And nowadays, you guys, they're just like in triage, give her Pitocin. You got admitted 2 minutes ago, just give her Pitocin. Let's get this going. Like, give it a minute, right? Pitocin has some effects on your birth. It is a very useful drug. I have a lot of respect for Pitocin, but it's not as general and throw it at everybody. So if you put no Pitocin and then you have a conversation with me about it and you've already discussed it with your doctor, and you're like, listen, I just want it when it's medically necessary. We've given enough time. We've not made enough change. Then we can introduce that topic. Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm getting this through. So it's a tool, all right? And it's a symbol of all the work you've done. Because all of those things I just mentioned, right? From episiotomy to vacuum to Pitocin to the lights to everything, you understand why. You've done the homework, you've done the research, you've discussed it with your partner, you've discussed it with your doctor. It's a symbol of all of that work, right? And so it's not so simple to do. And that's why so many people may, if they understand that, may feel overwhelmed by it. But if you just do little by little, I start early and do it often, write in that notebook as you research things, about the baby medications, maybe stimulating the baby after birth, even to a hat. I've read it please don't place a hat on my baby's head after birth. Okay, gotcha. If you understand why, that birth plan is a symbol of all that work that you've done. And you should be proud of it, honestly. I think birth and everything we do is so fascinating. So to me, I'm like, yeah, I want to research that. My first baby, I did not research anything. I watched movies with women that were pregnant and delivering because it made me feel, connected. But they were crazy births and they kind of get through them right away. And that was it. And I didn't know that I could know anything, until I did. My second one, 20 years later, Kaya, I'm obviously a labor and delivery nurse, was so different because I communicated and I didn't have it written out, but I discussed it from the beginning. So it was good. And a birth plan essentially is meant to empower you. All right. You are going to feel so good when you get into that birth room and you're one of those clients that understands, right? And I've had clients have these discussions with me that never even bring out a birth plan. They don't even have one written down. They don't have it. They just know it. They just researched it. They've discussed it. It's in the back of their head. Their partner understands it and they back them up because they trust them because they're the leader of their body and their birth, right? We are advisors. Your doctors are expert medical advisors. So we're going to give you recommendations, but you have to understand what those recommendations mean, what the alternatives are if they go against what your wishes are, right? If you start steering away from your dream birth, why? If you have a good understanding of that, then steer away. You understand it. So, okay, let's go with it. These women that do this, I see them get offered Pitocin. maybe twice, right? Max. Like these doctors come in like ready to push it, and they get like, boom, stopped at the door. And maybe one episode we'll discuss, or maybe I'll do on Instagram. I know a few birth space influencers that do such a good job at showing you how to respectfully decline. And it's like, oh, wow. And they did it so, like, they were knowledgeable and they listened to the provider and they understood. And they said, respectfully, I'm going to decline. I understand why you're recommending this, but it's just not in our plan right now. I don't feel it's necessary. And, if things change, we'll be open to discussion. And these moms like never need Pitocin. They end up delivering 12 hours later. They trust their body and they get their birth plan more often than not. Okay. Things do happen. Emergencies do happen. Some women, end up in a C-section, or it just is what it is. But it's way, way less. I know it's just, I see it. You guys have labored with thousands of women. It's way less. So come prepared. Be that person that is going to be like, oh, here she is. Like, girl, she's going to be high maintenance. Yeah, be high maintenance. It's okay. If you're following the hospital rules, you understand the evidence, and you're just bringing you and what you want, there's no problem with that. Okay. From an IV to continuous monitoring, or however you want to do it, to medications, anything, like put it on your birth plan and have an understanding. So again, I have like a list of the actual detailed things that you want to learn. You can join the birth link to get all of those. You got to be a client, but I go through all the details of what you want in the birth plan. Otherwise, you can come to the crash course. You'll learn a lot there. Go through the podcast with the first 15, start researching, start talking to people start talking to your doctor, learn the different interventions, what's available to you, and start doing the research little by little. Don't overwhelm yourself. One thing at a time, okay? And you may not hit everything, but, you'll have the right questions to ask when the time comes. Because if you research 20 items that we do, and then, that 21st item you never researched and you don't understand it, it's okay, because you've researched 20 of them already. 20 of them already. So when it comes time and something pops up that you've never heard before, then you're going to be like, oh, I know the questions to ask and I know how to research this real quick, or your partner will, right? So know that. So it's a symbol, it's a tool, and it's meant to empower you. So let's get into the evidence. I'm looking through my slides right here. Okay, the 3 steps, and then we'll finish up here. So what I've discussed so far is how to make sure that is effective, right? There's no point in a birth plan. There's no point in any of it. If it's not going to be effective, then don't. If you're not going to do the work that goes with it, if you're not going to have these discussions, then forget about it. Like, don't worry about the birth plan. The hospital and the nurses and the doctors, we have a birth plan for you. Okay. So if you really are like, I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to go with my eyes closed and because that's basically what it is. If you think you're coming in and you're going to be like, oh, I'll decide when I get there. I'm sure they'll have my best interests at heart. You're going to be in for a surprise. So yeah, just know that going into it. So I do want to empower you guys. I do want you to feel this way. This is why I'm doing this. Okay. Because after laboring with so many parents, my heart was just breaking, and we were having emergencies where they have tears in their eyes, and it just didn't have to happen. And I put quotes around emergencies because it wasn't really emergencies. It was just like, none of it had to happen the way it did. And if they felt like a leader and if they felt empowered, it would have been such a different situation. The level of trauma would go down, and the level of respect that doctors and nurses have for women and parents would go up. So yes, I hope that providers and nurses hear me and are doing their own to change their ways just like I have. But at the end of the day, it's going to be you guys, unfortunately. That's what I believe is like, you can make a change in our system if you start empowering yourself and asking those questions and doing the homework and research and going in prepared. And a birth plan is going to help you do that. I promise you. Okay. So 3 steps to create a birth plan. 1, get the birth basic checklist. So I have one, but it basically if not mine, then I would suggest you go online and Google birth plan or birth plan template, and something will pop up that looks like a birth plan with the checklists. And you just that you would just kind of check off, right? But instead of checking it off and that's the end of it, you are going to check it off after you've done the research behind it. Okay. Now, I myself, for my clients in the birth link, I have a list of about 100 things, right? So you can just go through that little by little. But if you find a template online, or you can grab my birth basics checklist. Again, if you want the checklist, message me at Colette@myfriendsandnurse.com. Then you want to just go through that. And as you research it and have those discussions, check it off. Right? And then make notes and put it in your notebook. So that's going to be your little list of things that you want to make sure that you don't miss with regards to a birth plan. So just grab one of those checklists, grab it from me, or just Google it, or join the birth link and become a client. And I think I have new openings for the cohort. January 20th we open. So stay tuned for that. I'm sure I'll start having announcements for that soon. If you want to join, and then I will coach you through all of this. Okay. So you don't even have to stress. Step 2 is take a great childbirth class, right? Why did a childbirth class? Oh, whatever. You want a birth class, right? And you want it to be really good. And you want to have that checklist ready to go, so that's going to kind of be a starting point as well. So you're going to go through it and you're going to have an understanding, right? The stages of labor, how long they should take, the different positions you can get into. And then it's going to help you with mindset and birth 101, all that stuff. Again, if you become a client with me, you get that. If you just want my birth class, you can go to myfriendsandnurse.com and grab the birth link birth class course. And you can have that online. It's long. It's like 10 hours, but you watch it at your own pace, little by little, and just start checking off those boxes. So use that class as well to start really educating yourself. A full class. You can also take a tour at the hospital and take a hospital birth class. I always recommend you do both, because you want to understand the hospital just as well, right? You can take the hospital childbirth crash course that I have. Again, myfriendsandnurse.com, and grab that. That's 3.5 hours. But you can also just go to, and it's going to be way more extensive than a birth class at the hospital. And I give you some really behind the scenes insider stuff that the hospital will not. But it's okay. Take that tour, understand what your hospital is going to offer you. So do they have, a nitrous oxide tank that you can use? Do they have a bath, or is it a shower? What kind of monitors do they have? So you want to familiarize yourself with the actual hospital that you're going to deliver in, or birth center, or wherever it's going to be. Even if you're doing a home birth, okay? It's going to help your anxiety to know when you get to the hospital, it's not going to be your first time. You're going to have an understanding of it, right? All right, so step 1 is get that checklist. Step 2 is take a birth class, hopefully the birth link course. And step 3 is use that checklist and all the information that you're learning to create that birth plan. So now you're writing in your notebook, you're communicating with your doctor and your friends and your partner. You're getting a doula. I hope you're working with me so we can start creating that birth plan for you. And you can grab a template. If you want my templates, just write me. If you want to go onto Pinterest, or you want to make your own, one of my friends made her own and it was fabulous. Or if you just wanted the notebook, right? Like I said, you don't necessarily need a whole printed out sheet. If you just have a notebook, good. If you have it on your phone in your notes app, fine. I had it in my head because that's how well I knew it. but you may miss things if you don't have it written down. So I highly suggest you write it down. And if you want to make it all fancy looking, grab a template, but start like putting all those things in your head and your decisions, like the things that are mostly go against, or how should I put this? Things that are not so routine, you can put onto the birth plan, if that makes sense. So, baby medications we give. So if you want them, then you don't need to necessarily waste space on that or time discussing it, but you have an understanding of it. But if it's something that we really need to know to create the birth that you want, then you need to put it on your birth plan and you need to discuss it with us. So discuss it with every single nurse, with every single resident and doctor that you see at the hospital. And if you can't, one of your team members will, because they all have an understanding. All right. So yes, get started as soon as possible. It can be a pregnancy thing. Absolutely. As soon as you find out you're pregnant, you need to reach out to me and get that checklist and get that long list of things that you want to start studying and start watching the BirthLink course. That's what I suggest. But if you don't want to work with me, that's fine. I hope you do, but you can go on and research it on your own. Just do it, please. I hope you don't wing it. I really do. I'm honestly just saying because I see the difference of the ones that do and don't. And I'm out here like on social media, on Instagram and Threads and all this stuff. And it's getting like exhausting seeing all these moms and the trauma and their experiences. And I'm like, oh girl, so preventable. And I want to reach out and say a big thank you to all the nurses and doulas and OBs and midwives and birth workers out there that are without judgment, without being binary to one side or the other, just educating and we're just saying educate yourselves, and we're here to help you. And there's so many nurses out there on Instagram that are educating so well, and I'm just so proud to be part of it. And I hope I'm helping you as well, the little that I'm doing. Yeah, and I just want the best for you. It's also gonna, this is a whole separate topic, but it also requires you, once you're done with the birth plan, to get onto the postpartum plan too. Prepare for that postpartum period. There's a postpartum coach. I think that's actually the name of her podcast. Like, find someone that's really good in postpartum. I also work in postpartum. So if you work with me, I'm going to carry you right through the newborn stage and recovery, and we can create a postpartum plan together. And I have one of those too. All right. So I hope this helped you and didn't scare you, overwhelm you, but it's a tool. Okay. And my main goal of this episode was to hopefully convince you to do it one way or another, to educate yourselves and make that birth plan. You got this. I'm proud of you. And thank you for listening. Just the fact that you're listening to this, it just means that you're already on your way. All right. And I will see you next time. I hope you enjoy this episode of the BirthLink podcast. I had a really great time kind of going over my notes of the workshop. I don't know if I'll be doing this workshop again, but if you're interested in a recording of it, you'll be able to see the actual slides. And I really go into detail about like the evidence behind like delivering in a hospital and what that means when they say, it's evidence-based. What does that mean though? Right. And I go into a little bit more about my story and my first delivery with Jordan. And yeah, I want you guys to just be empowered and respected. And it's just so unfortunate when I see it not happening. So yeah, little recap, your birth plan is a symbol, it's a tool, and it's meant to empower you. And it's not a ticket to the OR, right? It's not high maintenance, whatever you want to put it to. It's not. They need to stop. The chatter at the nurse station needs to stop. Like, let's empower ourselves and the women and the delivering people, whoever is in that room. We need to support them. And I'm tired of working in places where there's just the bad vibes in their station when someone does come with their own plan and they're not so easy to push to do what we want them to do. Like I'm so for it. I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna educate you on why we want to do things. If it's a policy and if it's a doctor's order, then yeah, I'm gonna educate you. But I'm also gonna give you the risk, and I'm gonna give you the risk of doing it and not doing it, and I'm going to, give you the alternates. And honestly, to be honest, right now, like it's not a nurse's job to give you full consent for many of the things. It's our job to ask you if you feel like you gave informed consent. That's pretty much it. Like, especially when it comes to a C-section or Pitocin induction, it's not our job. But if the doctor gave the order and they didn't give you consent, they didn't give you enough information to give an informed consent, and you still say yes, then the nurses are going to be like, okay, it's not our job to make sure that you're informed correctly. But we do want to review the side effects, possible side effects of things that we do, risks and benefits. We know all of it. So you can always ask your nurse. And if you really don't understand, then you need to ask your doctor. And, if you still want to decline, then you need to just respectfully decline. And we need to respect that without rolling our eyes and making a scene. Like, actually respect it to our, And to be able to do that, like, you have to set the tone, honestly, and shut us up. And you'll get the birth you want, more likely than not, I promise. And if not, at least you won't be so traumatized. And that's really what I want to avoid for you. So yeah, join me next week. I'm going to have a birth story. I have my friend Sarah coming on, and I'm so excited to have her. It's a different Sarah this time, and she has an amazing story. She's had 3 babies, and I'm just excited to speak with her. So don't forget to join us next week. All right, have a great one. Bye. Thank you for listening to My Friends a Nurse presents the Birthling Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it valuable. Before we go, a quick reminder. The information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any medical concerns or questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more people and continue to bring you great content. Until next time, stay healthy and stay informed.